Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. And here we have Jena Griswold, the Colorado Secretary of State, being asked on CNN, the most trusted name in news, what will happen if the Supreme Court doesn't rule on Colorado removing Trump from the Republican primary ballot? If they don't step in and they allow Colorado to do it, or they say, Colorado's got the right. This is Secretary of State who's a political hack. And if you remember, the only time secretaries of states took people off the ballot was in 1860, to the last of my recollection.
And if the Supreme Court rules in favor of the Colorado Supreme Court to remove Trump from the ballot, but his name is still there, what happens then?
Colorado's elections take into account candidates who either drop out of a race when their name is already on the ballot or otherwise unable to be voted on. So in that situation, if voters cast a ballot or a vote for someone who is disqualified, we would not be able to count those votes.
So she lied. She said people that are disqualified or people that drop out of races aren't the same. I live in upstate New York. I used to be a local elected official. And there's lots of people. There's been people that have passed on before and died that have been on the ballot. Those votes still count. Now, there was an instance once, I believe it was in Pennsylvania, northern Pennsylvania, where the individual was running for sheriff. One of them passed away. And that individual won. How'd you like to have been his opponent? I lost to a dead guy. And they appointed his wife and had an interim special election. Disqualification. Once you're on the ballot, you qualified for that. This is the mess that they're creating. Now, this is only for the primary ballot. See, the Supreme Court rules that Colorado is incorrect. They can turn around and do it for the general election ballot and say, well, it's different. And then you have to have the Supreme Court do it again? I mean, the Supreme Court does have a lot of cases and does have a lot of better things to do than dealing with these nut bars. Let's listen on.
Griswold will not count the 1.3 million ballots. That's how many turned out for Trump in 2020.
Yeah, look, Jena Griswold is a partisan hack. She's a hyper radical Democrat posing as an election official.
There you have it. A political hack posing as an election official. And they are everywhere. It's almost like any Star Wars fans when the Emperor did Order 66, where the clone soldiers turned on the Jedi. And they were everywhere in every level of government and the bureaucrats.
Execute Order 66.
And here they are. And they're in lots of levels of government that are deep red states as well. Make no mistake. They're everywhere, like a cancer, slowly eating away at our republic.
And this is nothing more than election interference on the part of her and other Democrats. That's why we're so hopeful that the Supreme Court will smack this ruling down and allow the voters the right to support Donald Trump.
Now, here's the part that really kills me. Biden and all the other supposed Democrats, I think they're not really Democrats, they're progressives, which isn't the same really, have taken over the Democratic Party, and they're telling everybody, if Trump wins, democracy hangs in the balance. But yet, at the same time, they're keeping you from voting for somebody that they don't like. You say, well, John, they say he committed insurrection, and he did. Well, first of all, no one has been charged with insurrection in the entire January 6th riot, not one. Why? Because it was an insurrection. And two, Trump was never charged, let alone gone through a court of law and due process and convicted of insurrection. And why won't they charge him? Believe me, if they could charge him with insurrection, they would. But they can't because he didn't do it. So they're circumventing the rule of law. They're saying someone's guilty without due process. I thought, my God, the progressives, that was their main mantra, that are innocent people being shoved through the judicial system and in the prison system from high school and blah, 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 blah. They're not getting their rightful day in court. that the Constitution allows. But then they turn around and do it to someone they don't like at a presidential level. This, folks, is incredibly dangerous. Now, they're counting on the fact, and that may be true, that if they do get away with this, if they do manage to do it, that the Republicans now and in the future, being the spineless, gutless, ballless party that they are, won't reciprocate in kind. And there's something to be said for that. But there's got to be one or two Republicans that have a backbone. It seems the Republican women have more balls than the Republican men. Let's listen on.
Dave, the scenario that CNN and Kayleigh are presenting here is, what if the Supreme Court sides with the state of Colorado right now? Then they'll throw out the ballots. They won't count the votes for Trump. What I'm curious about is, what if the Supreme Court smacks down Colorado? What if they say, no, you have to count the ballots, you have to keep Trump on the ballot? Do you think the fight is over? Because you've seen a willingness, a commitment to this from, for example, the Secretary of State and the Colorado Supreme Court to fighting Donald Trump. So will that be the end of the fight if the Supreme Court sides with Donald Trump?
You would certainly hope so, but I don't put it past Jena Griswold or any other Democrats in Colorado or across the nation to respect the rule of law. We're not going to take it lying down. No matter what, we're going to ensure that our voters have the right to vote for Donald Trump. And if the Supreme Court sides with us, great. If they don't, then we're going to convert to a caucus system, but we're not going to take it lying down.
Interesting. Convert to a caucus system. Real quick, we don't get a chance to talk to state party chairs all that often. Dave, the Iowa caucuses are coming up quick in New Hampshire. What's your sense of how this primary is going to play out?
You know, I think the writing's on the wall. I think Donald Trump is going to win in Iowa. I think he's going to win in New Hampshire. And by February, we're going to have pretty much clarity on who's going to be our nominee. So look forward to it.
Yeah, Dave, and for those who say we'll write in Donald Trump, the court opinion in Colorado says you cannot even write him in. Unfathomable disenfranchisement of those 1.3 million. Nothing.
You're out.
All right.
So there you have it. You can't even write his name in if the court rules in favor of Colorado. But who's to say? And I know it will happen unless the Supreme Court spells it out distinctly that he has to remain on the ballot because he's broken no Colorado laws. He's never been charged, let alone convicted of insurrection, as they say he did. Then they're going to turn around and say, well, we're going to do the same thing for the general election because it's different than the primary. Now it goes out to the general public, not just the Republicans who can vote in the primary, because I believe Colorado is a closed primary state. For those who don't know, some states, like my state, New York, is a closed primary state, meaning that only registered voters from that party can vote in a primary. In this case, Republican primary. Only Republicans can vote in it. But some states have an open primary where everybody can vote for anybody of any party. And I'm a 50-50 on that. I'm not sure which way is the best, if any. But not to digress, but they're going to turn around and do it. Now, the Supreme Court's going to have to say, you can't keep him off the ballot in the primary, and you can't keep him off the ballot in November. Now, will the rest of the states that are trying this, some have tried already, say, okay, the Supreme Court has ruled? Sometimes the Supreme Court makes rulings that are so watered down that these morons will interject their opinion of that ruling and do the opposite of what the Supreme Court wanted. So we're going to have to see. Like I said in the beginning, the last time states took off a presidential candidate in massive numbers of states is 1860, when Abraham Lincoln barely got 40%, which is the threshold, is my understanding, for it to go to the Congressional House of Representatives, and they pick if it's below 40%. So we're going to have to see. This is a can of worms. This is only January, folks. We got less than 10 months to go. It used to be we had 2 years to go, then we had a year and a half, and then a year. Now we're down to 10 months. What possibly can the Democrats pull when it comes to mail-in ballots, ballots being counted late at night, votes showing up at early in the morning of election night? God only knows. God only knows. This is like a really bad movie. For those of you that are younger, that have never seen the movie Network, find it online and watch it. So the 1970s, and won an Academy Award. It's about how media plays the people with business and corporations. It's astounding how accurate they were. Go back and watch Network, and you'll go, holy crap, did they call this one? We're going to have to see. What's your opinion? Until next time, God bless, goodbye, and good luck.